Afternoon. It is that time again. It's time for GraceTime TV with Mary Grace, and we are back. It's been a little bit of a holiday weekend extended break from the channel. As many of you know, I was down in I wouldn't say Mar-a-Lago. I was in Doral, Trump Doral, on the weekend of May 12th and 13th, and I was speaking down there. So for those of you who haven't been around, or maybe you were just busy, maybe with end of school year stuff, or maybe you were just under a rock and you didn't know that I gave an address down at the Reawaken Tour at the Trump Doral. This is the link to it. You can go to my Rumble channel and you can scroll back. About a week ago, I posted it. So this is my talk, and I think it went really well. And I think that it will encourage a lot of you. Now, tech stuff so that I can get this stuff off the screen. Let me see. And QR code. See, there we go. We did it. Now, let me bring my guest in. I have with me today Raj Doraisamy, and he is tuning in from Florida. Raj is somebody that I have met early on in this movement. We met at the first Reawaken tour down in Tulsa. It's amazing that we've been connected for this long. Raj is the founder originally of Defend Florida, which has morphed into Defend Our Union. And he is one of the people that I know who is doing the most, along with Annie Delgado. She's like a machine. But you guys are doing incredible work down there and around the nation in coaching people. So if people are sitting there thinking, well, people keep saying, do this, do that. Well, how do I do it? Raj is your guy. Raj is going to teach you, and his organization has so many resources. So welcome to the show, Raj. You're on GraceTime.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to be with you. And yes, I still remember that first time we met in the media room at Rhema Bible Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma at a Clay Clark First event. And you have just inspired thousands of people. You are educating, encouraging, and feeding. You know, the Bible says we got to be trained and equipped, and that's what you're doing. And also Mary and Delgado, she is a warrior, been at this longer than I have for sure. Her organization, conservativewatchusa.com. You guys have got to check that out, conservativewatchusa.com. Mary and Delgado. So it's so great to see you. Great to see you again.
Yeah, we've had Annie Marie on the show. So, and you guys do a lot of crossover down there, which is great. And that's one thing we like to see. Not everybody has to do everything the same, but it's good if people aren't like clashing, you know?
Always good. Much gooder.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job of sort of joining forces and focusing on your strengths in different areas. And a lot of people don't know this, but Annie Marie is probably the reason that Trump got elected in Florida in 2016. She was just she's just absolutely a master at activating and motivating people and getting volunteers literally out there on the street, sign waving and door knocking and all the things that she does. And you guys are taking it down to an even more granular level, I think. You've set up a situation where people can go to your website, they can get coaching, but I'm going to let you explain a lot of that. There's a lot there. You have groups all over the country now. You're teaching people how to identify legislation and to understand what's really happening with election integrity, not just what you're being told by the politicians and the press. So let's start with that. Let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts, boots on the ground type of activities you're teaching people because I know people are constantly saying, I don't really know what to do or where to start. So let's talk about that. Let's show them.
Let's just talk about that person there that's watching, that's in that same boat. I know I need to do something. I'm concerned about what I see, and I'm not sure what to do. Or you might be watching this and you might be kind of in another place, and you're saying, well, I've been doing things, but I'm discouraged by the output. I'm discouraged by the results. I don't think I'm getting the results that I need, or more importantly, I don't think we as a nation are getting the results that we need. So if that is you, I'm so glad you tuned in. And if you know someone, make sure you share the link to Mary Ann's channel with them. So important, because I'm going to dive into what Mary Ann just said just a minute ago. So if we take a step back, organizations like ours, we've been at this for just under 2 years. We're really new at this. And I want to share something with you. I've never ever had a meeting with a legislator. I've never had knowledge about how our country works. Just to tell you how naive I was, I really didn't know the difference between Second Amendment, First Amendment. I knew that was an amendment. I'm not sure what that was.
Yeah.
Free speech. I was that person that just didn't have a clue, Marianne. And
Mary
if
Grace.
you're watching this and that's you, Mary Grace, this is going to be really, really, really important. I've got Annie Delgado on my mind.
I know. I figured that. There's a lot of us out there, all these double names.
So
no worries.
yeah, if that's you, let me encourage you this way. If you think about all of the things you've read and seen, would it be on Rumble or Gateway Pundit or Twitter, a lot of people have done a tremendous amount of work in exposing the malfunction, exposing the maladministration, the corruption. So you and I now know more than we've ever wanted to know about what's wrong in the country. And this could be on health, it could be on elections, it could be on our borders, it could be on this digital currency that they want to roll out. There's no shortage. What we're going to talk about in the next few minutes is what you can and must do. And also, I'm going to show you how we, the volunteers in Florida, use a strategy that actually got things changed. And I need you to know this. When we started, our entire government leadership, just under 2 years ago, did not want to make any changes. How did our volunteers change their mind? We're going to talk about that in this program, Mary Grace.
Good. Okay, and I'm going to put the text number up here too, because people can text and join and get notifications about trainings and action items that are coming up with Defend Our Union. But yeah, let's talk about, first of all, tell us the story about how you got the legislature to pay attention and to take action. Because I think we need some wins, right? We need to hear these wins. And this is, people get discouraged. So tell us that. Okay.
Yeah. So last year, volunteers in Florida, here's what we did. We heard what all these experts are saying. Jovan, Dr. Frank, Bobby Piton, Mike Lindell. We heard what they were saying, and then we just said, we are going to take action. We said, we're not going to just listen to what they're saying. We're going to take action on how to do it. And in particular, Bobby Piton and Liz Harris really walked us through those steps last year. So this is what we did. We sent individuals, we trained them. And this is a really important point. It's so important that we're competent in what we do. So we got training from Jovan trained us, Liz Harris trained us, Bobby Pite, a bunch of those people, they actually trained us. We got them on Zoom. And once they trained us, in 32 of our 67 counties, we sent some small teams into those counties. And when we did that, they knocked on the doors of people that we had identified on our list. They asked some very basic questions. We never asked them who they voted for, because that's supposed to be confidential. We did, however, ask, how did you vote? We also, on these addresses, when we came to an address and we saw that the state of Florida showed that someone voted from this address, but when we got there, it was a vacant lot or it was a UPS little box. When we saw those things, we made a note of that, we documented it, and then we shared that with our officials. We were very intentional about being professional and being courteous and being very clear in what we were sharing. And I mentioned that because some volunteers get really hot and angry and annoyed because they're so frustrated with what's going wrong. And when they have those meetings, are very confrontational, and it can be a very unproductive meeting. We try to go on the other end. Now, to go to Mary Grace's question, when we shared this information, the government said, whoa, we did not know that these problems were on our voter rolls. We did not know that there were people that were dead that were on the voter rolls still actually voting. So we gave information, and because we took the time to create those relationships with our officials, which take time, which are often hard to do, because a lot of times our officials disagreed with our volunteers, but we stuck with it. And in most cases, we were able to create that relationship. And then the government here began to acknowledge these problems that we had discovered. Now, here's the thing that I really want you to zero in on. Simply getting your officials to acknowledge what you're saying is insufficient. What we then had to do is we also had to apply political pressure, because oftentimes you will find that if you do all the things, meet professionally, be courteous, write down what you found out as a problem, write down what you think is a solution, submit it. We often think that if we just do that and we get the meeting, that we've actually made some progress. What we found out is, in actual fact, you have to apply political pressure. And why do we have to do that? Well, the reality is those officials that you are meeting with, you're talking to them about the things you want, and they have lobbyists, they have people with a lot of influence, they have large third-party special interest groups also talking to them, and oftentimes they're caught in the middle, and they have to decide: do they go with the direction you want them to go in, or do they go in the direction these other people need to go in and want them to go in? This is very important to understand the dynamics of how this works. So once we figured this out, once we began to understand this, we then said, all right, we need to apply political pressure. And the way we did that is we asked our volunteers that were on on Telegram, on Signal, we asked them to make phone calls to our legislators. That's step number one. Step number two, we also had a press conference that we live streamed. And this press conference, we're very professional. We articulated the problem. We had a panel describing why the problem needed attention. We had a panel describing the solution, and we invited everyone to that press conference. So a combination of the relationships, the meetings, the documents that we dropped over, the phone calls, the emails, and the press conference finally caused our government to start listening to the people in Florida. And as a result of all of those things, last year, Senate Bill 524 was passed into law, and that was one of the most comprehensive, most transparent, it created more accountability in election integrity in Florida than in recent history. So in a nutshell, Mary Grace, I just jammed in there what we did for about a year and a half.
Yeah. So and this is important too, that it's over time. It's not a 30-second Instagram reel that you just compressed it into that, but it's a time lapse. And a couple of things I wanted to ask and then observe. One is, when you talk about government, you're talking about first of all, you're going and knocking on doors. What information were you using to do that step? Where did you get it?
Yeah, such a good question. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that as I'm talking here, we can actually you can actually see a visual here that will help. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually taking you to the defendflorida.org website, the defendflorida.org website. And when you go to the defendflorida.org website and you click on canvassing, right here at the top here, you will actually see some of the information and questions that we were asking. Now, this was done last year, but these questions are questions that you can use in your particular county. So Mary Grace just asked, what are the questions that we asked? So I'll give you some of those questions. Number one, sir, madam, whoever opened the door, how did you cast your vote? And keep in mind that when we're at the door, we actually have a list that shows from the state of Florida how the state of Florida thinks they cast their vote. So if the person said, well, I voted in person, we said, oh, wow, okay, the state of Florida says that you voted by mail. So that's a type of discrepancies we began to document. Now, just to make sure that we're being competent and professional in this, we also have to factor in that these folks had voted months ago. Not every one of them are going to accurately remember how they voted, right? So we got to factor that in, and we did. So given that information, because we went to 32 of our 67 counties and we knocked on thousands and thousands of doors, we were able to, even by factoring in that people don't often always remember exactly what they did, we were able to factor in enough data that got our officials' attention. Another example of a question is, sir, madam, is John Doe here? Or I'll say John Livingston here. No, John Livingston's not here. I bought the house from him 20 years ago. He's now in Africa, wherever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting because according to the state of Florida, John Livingston voted from this address in the last voting cycle. Whoa, really? So this is what we asked. This is the type of information we gathered. We captured that information. And when we captured that information, we were then able to really bring to the people's attention what we had discussed with regard to here are some things that need attention. So these are the ways we began to do that. Now, the thing
And
I want to make
where did you get that list? Where did you get the list that explained where they voted, how they voted, where they voted from, et cetera, et cetera?
excellent, excellent. So this is where, and I love the question. You know what? In all of the interviews I've done, Mary Grace, you are the first one to ask that question. That is a key question. So good on you. So
nuts and bolts. Yeah.
nuts and bolts. It's got to be nuts and bolts.
Pick up the phone today and start making calls so that they can determine and work on this for 2024 and for the primaries. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Yes. And by the way, the information we're capturing here, you saw Mary Grace had put the information, text the word defend to 9/17/76. If you text the word defend to 9/17/76, you'll get links where you can get a lot of this training. But since you're watching here, let's get right to it. So what we did is we contacted our supervisor of election in our county. This is why it's so important that you have a good working relationship with your local election officials. And we had that in most states, in most counties, excuse me. So we asked them for the information. In addition to that, we contacted our Secretary of State. And in Florida, our elections are managed and come under, at the state level, the Secretary of State. So now in your state where you are living in, if you have never done this before, if these are terms that are unfamiliar with you, then go to DuckDuckGo, and do the following search. Who runs elections in my county? Who runs elections in my county? That's a search you need to place, and then you'll get a list of results. And in those lists of results, you will be able to find out in your county who manages information. Now in Florida, because of the Sunshine Law, because of the great work that our Florida government has done in the past, we have a lot of transparency and sunshine.